All right, we're going to end with Martin Broen. Martin's another very special friend, guest. Martin is the Vice President of Global Design and Design Innovation at PepsiCo. He defines all of their design strategies. He leads their consumer-centric approach to product innovation and growth. He started out as a true designer with his own studio prior to PepsiCo. He founded Design Sense, which is an Italian-based design and innovation consultancy in Milan. Has more than 70 patents and has won more than 50 international design awards. Welcome.
Hi there. Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay, got it. No, it was working. Yeah, got it. So, thanks, Walter. No, this works. Yeah, we'll need that, thanks. Otherwise, I'm stealing yours. So, thinking about what I can really communicate to you, I mean, and as Walter was mentioning, I had a chance of passing through a lot of different experiences in my life. I mean, I done really big consultancy, one of the top 5 design consultancy worldwide. I worked for a lot of companies. I ended up opening my own design consultancy. I started startups. But knowing that your MBA students, I mean, studying design thinking, maybe the best use of the time is talking about how to try to convert a Fortune 100 company into design thinking. There's a very different beast. So very different reality than Paul and TJ. In our case, second biggest food company in the world, some of the best product portfolio that you're gonna have there, some of the most recognizable brands, 44 $500 million brands, reach to more than 200 countries worldwide. So it's really a different reality. This is a $66 billion company already there. So the question is about why do you need design there? And by the way, it's not design, it's about design thinking. And how I tell my designers, it's not about doing great design. That's not our job. Our job is to create value through great design. It's really creating the right strategies. It's about figuring out which are the innovation problems that the company has and how we can accelerate it. How we can translate, how we can, by the way, you cannot, do meaningful innovation with the design team alone. You will need to be converting the full organization together with you. So it's really an education process. And there's a very good proof on the value of doing that. I mean, the DMI research from the 2014 about understanding the companies that were utilizing design in a proper way, our level, their competitors were more than 200%. So there's a reason to believe that there's a very strong value about design thinking in the corporation. So 3.5 years ago, Indra Nui, the CEO of PepsiCo, hired Mauro Porcini, one of the fantastic design thinkers. I was the first designer to join the team and design leader to join the team in the journey of, okay, how are we going to be doing that? How are we going to be converting this company? With enough buy-in for the corporation to hire, if not mistaken, 24 designers at a time. 3 years pass. Today we have a full floor in Soho, Manhattan. More than 65 designers in-house in Manhattan. We have the design team in Chicago, one in Plano, one in Shanghai, one in Russia, and we're going to have at least 4 more locations by the mid this year. We managed to attract some of the biggest talent that you can get. Cross-disciplinary in design. Design, as you know, is not about product or branding or graphic or interaction you really need to have all different disciplines of design working together. By the way, together with R&D, together with insights, together with all the other teams as well. So the first and most important thing is always about people. That is the key. This is a very fast-paced changing landscape for the companies, and the consumers are hyper-connected, hyper-critical, evolving, global. You cannot communicate to them in the same way that you done it 20 years ago. television advertising will not work to get credibility to your customers. You need to understand how to reach them, how we gonna create really meaningful experience for them, how you're gonna be creating a very strong brand that carry, I mean, by the way, not brand ecosystems that communicate in a meaningful way, loyal to the brand equity across every single touch point. How are you going to be extending that in every single element you do, and how you start creating equities for different elements that are going to be creating that experience. Because the key is that today you cannot think that you're selling products anymore. You sell experiences. Consumers buy meaningful experience for them. And this is one of the key things. It's about shifting a company that is thinking about what's my product quality, to figure out, okay, how I create that meaningful experience for the consumer, and how you need to be affecting every single touch point that your brand has with the consumer. For those who are going to be attending the design fair, the biggest Salone Mobile, the biggest design event worldwide that is happening next week in Milano, you can come pass and see how we are experimenting with some of those executions. The second most important thing is about, again, it's not about design. It's about becoming a real strategic partner. And probably you're studying that doing meaningful innovation is really about that core spot between business, technology, and consumer. But the ones that are coming from corporations, for Fortune 100 or whatever, know very well that, fantastic, but all these teams, they don't sit in the same room. They don't talk the same language. They have very different conflictive agendas and bonuses. So the thing is about lovely, but who's going to do that? And by the way, as a design thinker, that's your role. The role of the design thinker is figuring out how you're going to reach the gap between that. Because if you're a designer, you already have that empathy for the consumer. You know what they need. You can understand the consumer needs in a very different way. You understand the technology and the finance. You understand what is going to be happening. So your role is bridging that gap. And let me give you an example in terms of how we apply that. One of my first projects in the company was about trying to reinvent the equipment portfolio. So if you're an external consultant, what you can do is create a vision of how that future could look like. And it's amazing. It's going to be visionary. It's going to be talking about technology. It's going to be talking about experience. But the reality is that, yeah, but this is how the portfolio looks like. So how you bridge that gap? I mean, clearly, you cannot take it all the way to that point if this is the starting point, where all the equipment that you have already in the company is not designed purposely in a portfolio by somebody, but it's just coming from vendors. It's vendor-driven innovation. It's not company-driven innovation. And by the way, they all talk a different equity, which is already telling your consumers that you're not a strong brand. And by the way, they're telling generating completely different experiences. So the first thing, I mean, the first project that I had in the company asked me, you had to resign this scaffold equipment. And the first reaction is about, no, you don't need to add one more piece to this. What you need to be understanding is how to create a meaningful portfolio. So the first project we done was a Pepsi Spire. I mean, with the base of figuring out what is the fountain experience that you want to reinvent. It's not about the product anymore, it's about interaction. So by the way, the design of the machine tends to disappear. You only have the surface that is communicated with the consumer. It has the touchscreen, it has the nozzle, the backsplash, the drip tray, every single in one surface, and the machine, you don't even realize that it's a body behind that. It's really, I mean, these machines allows a consumer complete customization of a product. So you have all the products and flavors, more than 1,000 combinations of products, and really allowing the consumer to decide what he want to be drinking. But it's not just about doing one piece of equipment. In less than a year and a half, we roll up 5 different pieces of equipment to show the company what a visual design language, consistent visual design language, consistent graphic user interface, consistent user experience across different products should be looking like. But this clearly requires a very different discussion about the procurement process, all the different dynamics. The machines by itself, because they have a touchscreen and a digital interface, they are connected to a smart equipment network. So that allows us to to gather data real time, understand the consumer preferences, and by the way, push data at real time as well. So we can experiment on, this is one exercise that they're doing now in New York with a comedian from Saturday Night Live, where the person is really interacting on the screen real time with the consumer. So this is not filmed. The actor is really interacting with the consumer. So you can start experimenting in a completely different way. This allows you completely different tools for you to learn about the consumer preferences, for you to create really meaningful experiences. And that key element is about that very difficult journey on taking from, okay, we are gonna be our job is about doing a fantastic product, to understanding, okay, it's not a product only. You need to look at the equipment, but it's not about equipment neither. It's about a full experience. By the way, we don't combine that experience because it's a food venue. It's a Panera Bread, it's a Panda, it's KFC. So the thing is about how you're going to be allowing the ideal experience for that consumer in that specific venue through your product portfolio and equipment portfolio. So we start working on how we activate that and creating, and working not only on the product and the machine, but in the full experience, in the full interior design, in the full retail experience. And take it to a limit when we start working together with our clients and figure out how we co-design the ideal experience together with them. In the same way you're trying to understand your consumer, you need to understand your clients. That may not be the same person. And we took it also to an extreme and saying that, okay, we need to learn. We need to experiment about food. We need to understand about beverages. We need to promote this sense of mixology, of creating your drink, of experimenting. So we end up putting those buyers on the track. So in a full functional kitchen that we're taking around the country, where we can really experiment different experiences with the consumer real time. Designed by Karim Rashid, by the way. Or if you're talking about designing a craft beverages, a craft soda, you cannot use the same machine. So how you need to be changing the interaction? So they were about to push it in the same transactional machine that you use today in every single venue. And we said, you know what? No, give me a second. It's not about the speed of serve that you have. It had to be a mindfulness relationship interaction with the machine. So let's hack the valves. Let's figure out how to call the attention in the element that we want to be having and allow a very different interaction, force feedback into that handle, almost like in the beer industry, that allows to have a different even flow rate on the product and a different foaming. So you're figuring out all the different elements, how we can tweak it to create that experience that we want to be commanding. So it's not about creating one piece of equipment at a time. It's not creating one piece of project at a time. And that's what it's going to have as if you're an external design consultancy. And if you're wondering why that never flies, it's because you don't have control or visibility to the full story. You're not really talking with all the different stakeholders. And your job as a design thinker is figuring out how to create an ecosystem of products, services, or whatever you're doing that serves all the different functions. So to be able to do that, we end up creating a full portfolio of equipment, multi-tier. I cannot show you, unfortunately, but with more than 20 projects in the market, 20 pieces of equipment in the market. Generation 2 is already there. Generation 3 is in my lab. Generation 4 is in my drawing board. So creating a vision of how this is going to roll up in the next 5 years. But you need to do that in parallel that you're creating the procurement strategies. Your technology platform for electronics, your technology platform for valving, for example. How you're going to be commanding your refurb centers, and how you want to utilize the full system to create value. So it's not about creating a piece of equipment, it's understanding how you use your ecosystem from the business standpoint to create value. One of the most important things that you need to consider if you're going to be getting into a company trying to do design thinking is who's going to be the leader. Because if you don't have the right leader, you're going to do a fantastic project, but you're not going to be able to influence the company and the culture. You need to have a very inspired design leader. I had the fortune of having two. My leader, Mauro Porcini, fantastic creative thinker. In Renault, probably one of the best visionary business thinkers that you have in the market. passionate. I mean, one of the business person that she really gets what design really stands for. And this is people that will encourage the change, will try to figure out how to I mean, one saying that is, why is this critical? Because she is the one that put design at the center. If you're working in a big corporation, you may end up working in a design team with 100, 300 different employees under the marketing department. You're going to receive a brief, you're going to do a fantastic project for that brief. You're not going to change the company. If you want to be changing the company, you have to have a self-standing function. That it's not under R&D, it's not under marketing, it's between them. It's a self-standing pillar in the company that can make decisions together with them, that sits in the table all the way up and can make the calls of every strategic call from the company. And that's what Indranui created. And have the chance of having one of the very few CEOs that can talk about design thinking in Harvard Business Review. So it's really about encouraging the change. It's how to eliminate how to not to punish a mistake, which, by the way, designers, we don't make mistakes. We just do learning. But it feels like a joke, but everybody coming from R&D knows that they will never think that. And unless you unblock those barriers, unless those barriers are unlocked from up around on the company, you will never succeed to do innovation. You cannot try to do innovation if your team is rotating every 18 months, because it takes 3 to 7 years to do innovation. You cannot do innovation if all of your bonuses are related to short-term initiatives. If you're going to be penalizing every single activity that you're going to be having around that, you need to create the right context for your team to succeed. And that is the watch out for you, because you're going to be part of that team probably, not the decision making. You're going to try to get a job in a company will allow you to do proper innovation. So look at the context. And part of your job is to create that as well. And the last one, and for me is one of the most critical one, is about the role of prototyping, rapid visualization and prototyping. Because I was saying that usually those different players do not talk to each other. They spoke very different languages. You cannot pretend that somebody from insights can understand when he's talking with somebody from R&D formulation. You cannot expect that. And by the way, one real story that happens to me, at least in 10 different companies, you get to a room and you have 20 different people from different disciplines talking about that interaction in an Excel. No drawing, no one-in-one printout, no mock-ups, no cardboard model, no real consumer in front of it. So each of them has a very different visual of what their reality that they're reading on the screen looks like. So the chance that you have in terms of doing a very quick, dirty model, or just drawing in real scale in front of you, and embrace a very different discussion, is the one that will bring all these players together. A couple of examples.
How long was the Pepsi?
I joined the company 3 years ago, find this online. I said, like, you know what? I'm the responsible for structural packaging in PepsiCo. Let's go, let's do it. And by the way, when I saw that future, Back to the Future 2, it was 2015. So I was that was 13. It's like, okay, I have 3 years, 2 years and a half. And I was like, let's go and do it. So obviously, the first thing you do is sketch something, you communicate it, nothing happened. And say like, okay, you know what? Render, present it, nothing happened. So, okay, 3D printed model, no, still not there. So translucent 3D printed model, still not there. Okay, R&D, let's go to Amcor, one of our vendors, let's cut tool, let's blow mold it, and let's put the prototype in front of it with an overcap. And at that point, oh, wow, yeah, this works. So the thing is about, you need to understand different stakeholders in different companies will have a very different limit of understanding of that process. Some of them you can tell them an idea and they will get it. Some of them you're going to show you a drawing and they will get it. Some of them will get a render, they will get it. Some of them needs a nice cardboard model, a final prototype, a full functional prototype. But you need to understand what's the real limit that you need to be having. And you need, by the way, you need to master all the different techniques because you're going to use those probably in 20 different executions for each of the projects you're going to be doing. Long story short, it went really well. We put it in the Comic-Con. We have more than 3 billion media impressions. So it kind of works. I mean, again, just an exercise, but it's something that you had to be trying. You had to, by the way, having that entrepreneurial spirit in some of a big company, that is key. Don't lose that. You need to figure out how to reinvent that company from inside. So understanding how rapid visualization and using your post-it will allow you to get that consensus, will allow you to generate a different dynamic among the different teams, grasp between the ideas as your process, connecting the dots, but really start figuring out what is, generate consensus among different stakeholders, taking it to a storyboarding clearly, to figure out that you're really considering every single touch point of the consumer and not that specific demand space that you're thinking about. Understanding how you're going to be prototyping experiences. This is some of the exercises that we're doing on the Maker Faire last year, that we created a very specific booth to try new products based on bubbles. Or even creating tools and techniques. And this is after my experience on the Pepsi Perfect and many others on structural packaging, I realized that the 3D printed, solid 3D printed bottles were not really paying off. The lack of translucency and the rigidity of the material didn't really work to communicate. So you know what? I ended up creating my own blow molder in Design Center. So instead of 3D printing the bottles, I 3D print the molds, and I can blow my own preforms, the commercial preforms. But beside that, you can create whatever tool. I mean, one of the key things that the innovation team brings into the corporation is about understanding what is the right methodology they need to be creating to solve a specific problem. You are not there to do a project. You need to do your task is figuring out how that project could succeed through the corporation, how the project will survive the corporation. So you need to understand all the different touch points that this project will be having in the maturity and figuring out how you need to be unlocking that. And a lot of times you will end up having your methodology for that. So long story short, it's not about the shape of a product. It's how the company really thinks. And the important thing is that that's your responsibility because you're the ones that need to be changing and converting the corporation. Thank you.